And happy Thursday. It's the 28th day of November 2024. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year is coming.
Yes, throw in Happy New Year.
Senor?
Yes.
We just put it in there.
Kabisa.
Once and for all. Let's just get into it. Happy holidays.
Ding dong merrily on high.
Go on.
The bells are sweetly ringing.
The bells are ringing, for heaven's sake.
Huh?
It's in heaven, the bells are ringing.
But in heaven the bells are ringing.
Yes. Ding dong merrily on high.
Ding dong merrily on high.
The angels
Yes,
are
something.
singing.
See?
Gloria.
No.
Gloria.
Yeah. Yes, the whole.
In the
You
highest.
really have to extend that flow.
Let's go all the way.
You really have to stretch it. It's not just
Okay. Wealth. How much wealth do you have?
Are you
How much,
asking me?
how much do you want?
Oh, that's it. You see now.
It's the appropriate question.
Thank you, please.
Okay.
You have to appropriate your questions to the answeree.
Okay.
So that's the question that you'll be that will be answered for you when you walk into a Standard Chartered Bank. And they'll ask, how much do you want? How much do you have? What are you ready to do to make sure that you can create wealth, manage your wealth, rather grow your wealth and manage your wealth? And so you say, okay, so what do I need to do? This is how much I have. And you're really confused and you say, okay, so what are we going to do going into the future? Standard Chartered, the folks at Priority Banking say, it doesn't matter. Come unto me.
Only who
Thank you. All you who want to grow your wealth. And let's have a conversation about some of these things because we've done it before, guys. We've been around the block. We've bought the t-shirt and we've said, come, let's have a conversation. We will hold your hand. They are really, they're experts in this. And they say, we've done it for years. We've done it around the world and we can do it with you too. So you can learn the different ways and you can also start to practice them. And there are people who are not going to leave you in the deep, but they will make sure that you have all the tools that you need and help you to put your money in the right places. It's the folks at prioritybanking.ke@sc.com. Send them an email. Somebody will pick up the phone and call you. Somebody will say, come and let us have a meeting. Let us sort out these things together. Let's help you create, grow, and manage your wealth.
Actually, they do. Because I had this conversation, the one we had here with one Mr. Uma Orero.
Yes.
And he said one of his people get in touch. And
they did.
And they did. Yes. So what they're saying is actually true.
It is true.
They do.
There you go.
It's true. It's true. I told you my lady is buying me lunch today.
Can you bring
Did it?
your friend? You know, sometimes when they say, my friend is buying me lunch, then you show up and then they have come with somebody.
Yeah.
Bas.
Like, no, this is just my friend. She was passing by.
And I said,
And I think she could benefit from this conversation and the lunch.
That's why I like you.
Senor,
We are going.
after all, it is Standard Chartered Bank. Pesa or tas. What is lunch?
Lunch too.
And her name is Judith Othiam.
Kwisha wewe.
What is lunch? I will buy.
Only two.
Only two people. In fact, who else? What? Okay, now let's talk about Milestones. There's a company that we all know, regularly, or especially close to the election period, we see polls. And then when you have some things happening in the country, some big conversations taking place, maybe our economy, are we feeling like our economy is doing well or not? We again see this name. Is the country heading in the right direction? That question is only asked by one company. Right? And you ask yourself, which direction?
Yeah, exactly.
You should first ask me, is the country heading?
Yeah,
It's a country. Yeah.
Do we have a country here?
Oh dear.
Infotrak Research is a company that is known for this, but maybe they do a lot more. And they are marking 20 years this year since they were founded. And the founder of that company, who is also the CEO, Angela Ambito, is in the studio. Angela, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, which is also a birthday. We're very excited about
20 years?
Yeah.
20
years. It makes me a force.
Of asking the same question. If an election were to be held today,
Who would the preferred candidate be?
Yeah.
that's what we know. But then maybe you do other things.
We do a lot of things actually, because research is not, confined to polling. Polling is but public perception polls are just but a facet. Indeed, the space that we work in is market research, and that involves investigation, analyzing. So you gather data, you analyze data, and you come up with insights to answer to any problem. So everything we have in this studio, for instance, went through a process of what we do. So including whether the color of this desk should be as it is now, or the jacket that Ndu is wearing should be designed the way it's designed. So, big clothing and retail companies would do that. The microphone that we have. So research is omnipresent.
Right.
We use it, the church uses research. So believe it or not, the Catholic Church, and I think all mainstream large churches have huge divisions. If you go to the Vatican...
To research.
Exactly. To understand, to investigate, and
Is the Lord really coming back? What do you think?
Bro,
are we moving away or are we getting closer?
that's a different realm, Chief.
He said he's coming back. Is it like a thief?
Now you walked in the realm of faith.
Yeah.
So what
Just
research do they
use
do?
it nicely.
What research would the
Because,
church conduct?
I think it's just understanding what people think about what it is that they do. The various things that churches do, they'd like to understand. Because if you have a congregation, you want to meet their needs. And research would now inform you about those things. So that when you tailor the substance of what it is that you offer, it meets the needs of your congregation.
I mean, one of the challenges that mainstream churches, Catholic Church, which I belong to, is facing is, they're feeling disenfranchised, particularly when it comes to the younger population. So why are young people increasingly moving away from mainstream churches? And so to understand that, you can indeed pray, but you need to talk to the young people and find out what it is that they would perhaps be requiring to see in terms of their new generation, in terms of what religion and spirituality means to them.
Okay.
So that is, that is something
That's a lot that you do.
So it's a
We'll
lot.
discuss that shortly.
Yeah.
City will welcome you with the day is proper, but before he does that, he'll tell you that tomorrow is Friday, but they call it Black Friday globally.
Yeah.
But Woolworths has done some research, and they asked people, what should we do with the Black Friday this year? And they got the answer, which is?
They did get the answer, and they made it fairly simple. Even if you're not mathematically inclined, it's simply buy 3 items and one will be free. Not complicated. 3 free. It rhymes, doesn't it? Yeah. Now, all you need to do is go visit a Woolworth establishment. Okay? This season that we are now in is a season where people want to give. People want to go out of their way to make their families happy. But let me add a rider here. Also make themselves happy. You should focus a little bit on yourself. And one of the things that people do when they pursue that particular path is they want to purchase clothing. And other items that when we see and when we don on, we feel good about ourselves. And when we see it in others, we feel even better. Now, that is what Woolworth is offering. Du mentioned about the holding of hands. Well, Woolworth is saying, you come. Buy 3, we hold your hand with 1 more. That one is free. By the way, there was a song, I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles. So that you understand. Speaking rhyme
Buy
all
3,
the time.
pay for 2.
Yes, exactly.
Titi, I didn't know you were a poet.
You don't
Par
know.
excellence.
You don't know many things about City.
3 free. Yeah.
The proverb, where are we this week?
We are in the kingdom of Eswatini. These people like September. September 6th, they got independence. From who? Mother UK. Okay? 24th of September, same year, 1968, they joined the UN. And then life went on. And when life went on, they coined many proverbs, of which I will read one. a person who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the person doing it.
A person who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the person doing it.
Yeah.
Well, for Infotrak, marking 20 years, this one is right there. What's your interpretation of this proverb?
Oh, that rings true for me because 20 years ago, when I was just about to leave employment, and the sector, the research sector, was mainly, owned and run by expatriates. So it's a very wazungu kind of industry. And so when I said to various people, both in my family and all, that I'm leaving. I was 9 months pregnant. So people thought this must be pregnancy blues. She'll be back. Hormones. She'll be back. And I was very clear that I wasn't going to be back. I'd just done an MBA. At that time, Nairobi University was offering, it had just started the parallel program. So I went and did an MBA after studying history. I'm a student of history. And so many people said exactly what that proverb says. It cannot be done. But I was the one who was ready to do it. I'd been doing it for 9 years. And I think, sometimes you need to steer clear of naysayers and focus on your goals and get to where you want to go. Whether it's independence of a country, like happened with Eswatini, where there were people who wanted to get their hands dirty and get the country going, or you want to start a business. People will always tell you want to leave a salary. You want to leave, all the perks. Are you sure you can do what these other guys were doing? And yet you've been doing it anyway. So that is really what the proverb CT means to me. I don't know whether I have hit the nail on the head. So for me, yeah.
Well,
you've hit the head itself.
Proverbial nail or not, you have hit it.
So 9 months pregnant and decide to leave formal employment.
Right.
Go into maternity and start your business.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yes. Many things happened.
Apart from
to
the
me
hormones,
in 2004.
what else was going on in your mind?
Well, I had worked for one of the, mainstream research agencies for 9 years. I started working there when I was an intern. So when I was in university, I would go there and just, do anything really to get to understand how the working environment, operates. And so when I finished university, I just went back and said, listen, I need a job. And it wasn't very different from now, although now unemployment is a lot higher. But I was very clear on one thing, that there's a skills mismatch between what we are taught in university and what what your employability will be, even if you are in very specialized areas like accounting, etc. But for those of us who are in the Bachelor of Anything, as we were called, section, it was like, okay, you guys are going to be district officers, etc., etc. So I was very clear that, I needed to understand and start working in an environment, whichever environment. At that point, it was anything. But luckily, I got myself into research. Thanks to, connections that my mother had then. A colleague of hers knew someone who owned a research firm, and I went and worked there. Rose up the ranks. Again, not seeing the ceiling. Always wanting to explore, to do more. And I think one of the things that I had been told by my parents then is that you always get to work before your boss and you leave after or when he's leaving. So I always tried to make myself available. And what that does is then you get a very good mentor because then you're the person who is always available to tag along. So at a very young age, I think I was 26 or 27 when my boss then said, well, I think you're ready to run this organization. We're going to make you managing director. Many thought it was a joke. I was obviously thrown into the deep end. But, you learn as you go by. And if you believe, and I think everybody has that belief in yourself, you can do a lot of things. And so I did that. And in the 9th year, as would happen, I then became, you're young, and so you're very ambitious. We all at that age, I don't know about you guys, but I always thought that I was going to be a millionaire by the time I was 30.
Of course.
So, I just knew that 30 was this golden year where I would be doing things that were massive. And so that was around the 30th mark for me. And I had been agitating and got some shares. So eventually I became a shareholder of that company. But I realized that in being a shareholder and putting a lot of effort and energy in growing the organization, there was still the glass ceiling. There were still things I couldn't quite do as I wanted to do them. The aha moment for me was when I wanted a salary increment. So of course I was cheaper labor because I was younger. Yeah. So I've given you an opportunity. So you're not earning commensurate to perhaps what your expertise is, but also what your peers in the industry are earning because you're young. You've been given an opportunity. I didn't mind that, but when I could see what my abilities were accruing, but were not commensurate, I went and said, "Hey, we need to negotiate. I need better perks or more equity," and that's when it hit me that this is going to be a tough battle. So I have two choices. I can stay on and be very unhappy and perhaps be inefficient, or I can actually put into action everything I had, learned when I was at UON doing that MBA. And that's exactly what I did.
So this was what pushed you now to saying, let me go on.
That's exactly what it was. It gets to the point where you're sitting in management meetings or board meetings and you disagree with your boss over very minor things, and you realize company sio yangu. I mean, I have very small I had 10%. He was still 90% shareholder. So there was only so much I could do. But if I had the dreams of doing things in a different way, then it behooved on me, as people say, endo wanze yako. So that's exactly what I did.
Go start your own company.
And
Okay.
So as I celebrate 20 years, my son is actually 20 as well. I think I talked to you once when I was looking for where he should go to school. He's now in the US. So he turned 20 in May. And I left, that organization was called Stedman. Then I left Stedman in 2004, April. I gave birth in May. I started Infotrak in October.
What?
And in between that, I've never said this, but my marriage went through hell. So you're going through all these things, and the support that you would perhaps be expecting starts to crumble. So you have to, really invoke what is internal to ensure that you do not get, into a mental state that cannot be resolved. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that doesn't sound like a sob story.
No.
It's a very
Because you guys look...
inspiring story.
You guys look...
No, we're listening.
We're following the story.
Right.
We're paying attention.
Right, yeah.
So then with all of this happening,
Yeah.
and I mean, obviously, like now, just like, as we started this off, especially when it then comes to politics in the country and things that are happening with elections, now has just become synonymous with some of the things that you put out. However, back then,
Right.
and you said, oh, wait, I'm going to start my own.
Yeah.
What did you imagine that you were going to do, and what impact did you think it was going to then have on the country or other countries that you were going to do this work in? What were you thinking that was necessary? Market research, looking at politics in the country, looking at business, looking at, goods, moving, trading. What did you think it is that you were going to do that was going to impact?
So when I started working, we were still in the, Moi regime. And during that time, there were a lot of controls. So it was very difficult for companies like ours to venture into the space of, political polling or public opinion research, because that environment did not allow for those freedoms, right? So other than the fact that all these things were happening within the work environment and my, wanting to do more and more, and being told you can't quite do that much more, we were also getting into the NARC era. And I looked at that environment and I was very excited. I said, wow, it's the coalition, the Rainbow Coalition. We were the most optimistic country. So that means I was optimistic, perhaps like everybody else here.
Yeah.
And so for me then, I said, hey, this must be the opportunity. At that point, we had already started discussing what was happening around the globe with regards to various elements of research. And so, I was already aware of, public opinion polling, etc., etc. And I thought this is a space that one can now venture into because there was so much freedom, there was so much excitement. So 2002, we have that election. 2003, if you look at data, a lot of people started enterprise then because the government was also providing an enabling environment for us. Government is not actually meant to provide jobs.
Nope.
It is only meant to provide us with that facilitating, enabling environment. And at that point, luckily, that enabling environment was there. And so, because there were so many foreign investments coming in, businesses were expanding, etc. You look at all these companies we now celebrate. Many of them really grew around that decade. And what did they need? They needed information.
Yes.
The government itself needed information to rejig, that which was hitherto, perceived to be a very dictatorial regime. And so there was a lot of opportunity, and I wanted to tap into that. So that was one of the reasons, and thank God it was at that time, because timing is very critical in entrepreneurship, that I decided to get into it. And so there was a lot of demand for research then. Perhaps a lot more than there is now for people who are starting today. Although the truth of the matter is, in tough situations and when environment is tough, that is when research is most critical. That is when you really need to understand what your target market or your target audience is going through and what then would resonate with them. The mistake that most of us make is we look at research as an auxiliary service. Luckily, during that decade, it was actually mainstreamed. So performance appraisals became something that was a must. So every government agency had to do a performance appraisal. And that performance appraisal had to be done by an external agency. Today, I believe when, we talk about cutting down and streamlining government expenditure, one of the things that I believe has happened is that the services that we provide, perhaps alongside other consultancy services, maybe even media, is perceived as auxiliary. It's perceived as a good thing to have. Whilst at that now is when you need to be communicating to people. You need to be understanding what people need to, want done, and how you can help them, grow in whatever realms they're in.
Let's take a break, and then we come back and ask, what else do you do as Infotrak?
Right.
So aside from what we see, you're coming up and telling us that the majority of Kenyans don't feel that the country is heading in the right direction. Or an election now, the forthcoming election is showing that these are the popular candidates and so on. What else does Infotrak Research and Consulting do? 20 years in operation. This is what Angela Mbitho is telling us about. 20 years ago, October, she decided to start a new company. She founded Infotrak Research and Consulting Limited. 20 years down the road, what is this journey? What are the milestones and the achievements that this company has had? And what else do they do in this field of research? Ndu,
yes.
Please tell Angela that because she is now celebrating, she also needs to be taking a break once in a while.
Yeah.
And to enjoy some binge watching.
Step into a world of so many different things, and that's on TV with Showmax. So Showmax has a plethora of activities that you can watch, series, local programming, which are also series. There are movies, documentaries, some sporting activity. All of these in CT's world are movies. But, you know, for other people who don't live in that world, they are series, movies, documentaries, sports. Okay? So, there, like I said, great local programming. So there's a lot of really great productions that have been put on Showmax, and some of those series have already dropped. And we're saying that during this festive period, you can actually step into that world of entertainment. And for as little as 300 shillings a month, you can watch programs like Foreplay. Foreplay is Four play. And it's looking at the life of 4 gentlemen in Nairobi. It's called Nairobi's Concrete Jungle, and the different businesses they get into, the relationships, their connections, etc. One to watch. There's also another one called Black and Blue, and it's a series, or rather, around police officers. Stuff that you can actually watch and be entertained by. This and many, many others. 300 shillings a month. Shika Showmax this festive season.
Situation Room. The only way to start your day is